Peaches were first brought to the Americas by the Spanish in the 16th century. By the 1700s, they were being cultivated in many of the southern states. In 1768, Thomas Jefferson is recorded as having peaches at Monticello. By the 20th century, peaches had gained commercial recognition as far north as Delaware. Today, California and Georgia produce most of the peaches grown commercially in the United States. Some varieties are sold as loose fruit, while others are canned to be used in desserts such as peach ice cream or pie. Dowdying is making a pie with a crust on top but no base crust. So join me today as I use my mess kit to make a peach pan dowdy with the Yankee Camper.
These are the ingredients that you're going to need for the recipe. First, you'll need a small can of peaches. This is 8¼ ounces. Also, you'll need about 1½ ounces of vanilla cookies. Place these in a small Loctite bag. You'll need 2 teaspoons of vegetable shortening and a ½ teaspoon of butter flakes. Put these in a larger Loctite bag because you'll crush these into here. In a third Loctite bag, you're going to add 1 teaspoon of cornstarch, 1/8 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1/8 teaspoon of nutmeg. Put those in a separate Loctite bag. Grab a paper sack. Be sure to mark it. Put all of your ingredients in the paper bag, seal it up, and you're ready for a hot dessert out at your campsite.
Did you know that Winslow Homer, best known for his dramatic depictions of the ocean and maritime subjects while he was living in Maine, was a renowned landscape artist first? As a matter of fact, at least 3 of his works predating seascapes are related to peaches. Homer was an advocate for the American realism movement, which depicted life as it actually was. Born in Boston in 1836, he was sketching by age 11 and selling his works as a freelance illustrator by age 20. As the country was plunged into war in the 1860s, Winslow Homer, now living in New York, was working as a sketch artist for Harper's Weekly magazine, creating images that showed what life was like for the Union soldiers. During and after the war, Winslow turned some of these into full-blown paintings. Following the surrender of the Confederacy in 1865, Homer decided to become a dedicated artist, going back to selling freelance to periodicals, but still desiring to show life as it was, not a utopian imagined creation. His woodcut of picking peaches in Delaware is just such a presentation. It was during this time that he created a painting entitled Peach Blossoms that was later gifted to the Chicago Institute of Art in 1947. Moving from New York to France, then the UK for a time, the artist returned to New England, Prout's Neck in Scarborough, Maine to be precise, where he remained for the last 25 years of his life. It was here that Homer created much of his recognized work, some of which is exhibited in Chicago in 1893, earning him a gold medal. He was even honored with a stamp in 1962. The studio remains where it was located on a family estate, where his brother had a summer retreat and can be visited today with an arranged request. It was here that Winslow passed away in 1910 and was laid to rest at Mount Auburn Cemetery, amongst other notable figures such as Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, Charles Sumner, and Fanny Farmer, all of whom I have featured in previous videos, as well as a number of other famous individuals who may appear in the future. In that third work of art about peaches I referred to, it was painted in 1879, also titled Peach Blossoms, and was originally sold for $200, about $6,300 in today's money. That same painting was auctioned by Sotheby's in December of 2010, fetching a price north of $2.8 million. Now you know. I'll tell you about some other peach blossoms in a moment, but first, let's get back to our peach recipe at the campsite.
This is a relatively straightforward recipe. All we're going to need is our fry pan. Let's take out our ingredients. We've got vanilla cookies, butter flavored vegetable shortening, a can of peaches, and our dry mix. Put this aside and we'll get started. The first thing you'll want to do is you'll want to take your cookies and just crumble them up. Once you've got them broken up into a reasonable size, they're going to go right into this mixture here. Pour those crumbs right into the other bag, just like so. Now you could do this at home, but what fun is that? Once you've got that bag with the cookies empty, go ahead and start to work in to this cookie mix all of that vegetable shortening with the butter. I'm going to work that, and then we'll do the next part. So I think I've pretty much got all of those cookies into smaller pieces. I've worked the shortening in, just sort of kneading it through, and just set that aside for the moment. Open up your can of peaches. And pour that can right into the fry pan. Now you don't have to make this, you don't have to do this step, but I'm going to break these, I'm going to cut these peaches into smaller bite-sized pieces. I just find them easier to deal with my spoon. The next step is to open the cornstarch with the cinnamon and the nutmeg, and just stir that right into the mixture. You want to stir that until you get all of the small lumps into the peach juice. I'm going to do that, and then we'll put it on the stove. I stirred in all of that cornstarch. I'm going to light the stove and put this on over a medium heat. Now you will want to keep an eye on this. Continue to stir it just gently while that sauce comes up to temperature. Continue to nudge that around while the sauce thickens. I'm going to concentrate on that, and then I'll be back.
120 years ago, the New England Confectionary Company of Boston introduced a new sweet treat to the world. Despite having none of its namesake's flavor, peach blossoms were a thin, pink candy shell encasing a smooth peanut butter center. One of the first manufacturers to incorporate the recently introduced spread into a confection, predating both Reese's and Mary Jane's, although there were candies that included peanuts as an ingredient before 1905. NECCO was only 4 years old when they first introduced the new candy, but the company had roots dating back to before the Civil War. As a matter of fact, hub wafers were created by Boston sweets maker Oliver Chase, who had invented a lozenge cutting machine for cough drops, but expanded to candy discs. These hub wafers were carried by many Union soldiers during the war between the states. By the time of World War II, the U.S. military had once again recruited these disc candies for the troops, now rebranded as NECCO wafers. As a matter of fact, NECCO, having built a large manufacturing facility in Cambridge, Mass., was making a number of popular candies, including the Valentine's Day treat, Conversation Hearts. Throughout the 20th century, the company continued to expand, acquiring smaller candy manufacturers along the way, such as the Squirrel Nut Company, also formerly housed in Cambridge, makers of the Squirrel Nut Zippers, the Stark Company, who made Mary Jane's, along with candy cigarettes, and the Clark Company, manufacturers of the Clark and Zagnut bars. At the turn of the 21st century, NECCO had outgrown the almost 75-year-old facility in bustling Cambridge and relocated to Revere, Mass., with a bigger, more modern plant and better transportation access. By 2007, however, the company was having money troubles, and the Great Recession of 2008 didn't help. By 2014, NECCO was on the ropes financially and was down for the count by 2018, ending what was at the time the oldest large confectionery company in America, although B. Old Pepper Company in Salem, Mass. Predates it by at least 30 years. By 2020, a number of candy offerings originating from NECCO had been acquired by other businesses, including their unique four-segment chocolate Sky Bar, but that's a tale for another time. Now, you know. I'm pretty sure the peaches are hot by now, so let's finish making dessert.
Once you get a nice trail from with your spoon, that's probably about as thick as you want it to be. Place it on a pot holder. And sprinkle those cookie crumbs right on top. Using the back of your spoon, spread that around. And then return it to the heat. Now this won't take very long. You just want to be able to heat that through, melt the shortening, and let it absorb into the rest of that sauce. Get it as covered as you can. Be careful not to let it scorch. Let me grab my plate, and I'll plate this up. Turn the burner off. a hot camp dessert, peach pan Dowdy. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. Also, consider subscribing to my channel. I put out a video every week on either mess kit cooking or camping or some of the gear that I use. Also, consider sharing it on your social media. That really helps. Now, I'm going to eat my dessert and clean up my mess. Thank you for watching.